Means it's Dylan Butler. And what's the mug today, Dylan?
You actually nailed it on your intro.
Yankees?
No, blessed.
Blessed. Okay, so we're sticking with blessed. All right, there we go.
Blessed because of the
Blessed.
Open Cup.
Okay, so we
he's
did
also blessed because Aaron Judge keeps hitting balls 25 miles.
Yes.
Yeah, but he's getting tipped off clearly, right?
Yes. Just ask the broadcaster.
Just ask.
It's not that he's 7'5" or anything.
No,
it's the same thing I always had with Barry Bonds of like he's hitting home runs because he hit steroids. Yeah, steroids are the reason he's hitting perfect and squaring everything up. Sure, it might add some distance to it, might add some recovery. That man squared up everything like he was playing a game of the show on easy.
I just like that Aaron Judge right after that whole thing like breaks the Canadian flag thing out at like center field.
Oh my God! Yes.
Show the folks at Toronto what he means.
Just creating an international incident. That was amazing though. If for no other reason, y'all thought we're going to get mad at a Yankees fan and a Yankees player and Yankees fans. Well, you think they're not going to retaliate? Met Yankees fans?
Have you met Yankees squirrels?
Wow, that was pretty intense last night. You think you have a good seat at the game, right? And all of a sudden, here comes a squirrel. And it's not the first squirrel that I've seen out there. I think there's been other. No, there was a cat. I mean, there was a cat previously. That's right. I feel like anytime you have any sort of animal around a field of any sort, that's gold for social media.
Oh yeah. Also,
a dog on
good
the pitch in CCL. A squirrel running along the sidewall. You know, the old umpire. Remember that one? The old school, like 70s, right? The umpire picking up the cat, and the cat like scratches him, and he's like, and he drops the cat off.
Yes.
It's also good for juju, good or bad. Like LSU built an entire aura around their baseball team a couple of years ago because a possum ran on the field, which is one of the most Baton Rouge things that could happen. And then they went on to like make the College World Series. I think they got to like the quarterfinal, and they were selling like rally possums everywhere. You get an animal on your field and you win. You got marketing good right there.
Unless you're the Cubs.
Yes, that is true. Or if you're DC actually, if you're Oakland and you have possums in your press box, or if you're RFK and you have raccoons.
Yeah.
While you're covering.
The Raccoons might, you know what? The Raccoons are having a great season. I'm assuming the Raccoon is still technical director, and just took over by force when they moved on from Lucy Rushton. I just assumed that it was a hostile takeover from the Raccoons.
Yes, and we're all scaring each other with mammals this morning. When it comes
I'm scared. Possums are great, man. Raccoons are weird, but possums are great. They can't get rabies. They eat ticks. We need more possums.
Wow.
I saw one when I lived in Queens for the first time ever. I saw one, and I was scared, ish, because it was late at night. Mm-hmm. And I was walking my dog, and I was like, what the hell is that thing looking at me?
Well,
they get big, too.
Yeah.
I mean, David says the Cubs were cursed because they kept the goat out.
The goat, but then they had the black cat, remember?
Yes.
Yeah, they did.
That's true. and David also reminds us that they're not raccoons, Jarrett. They're called trash pandas. Mm-hmm. So when was the last time, Dylan, that you saw a goalie have a jersey pressed at the team store at the half?
Yeah.
With like his actual name and a number assigned to him. When was the last time you saw something like that happen where dude actually got in as a late substituted for a taller player? I mean, Matthew Nosita was like 6'8", and Carlos Cornell is not 6'8". So you substitute in a goalie wearing an actual jersey, and you substitute in a shorter individual for the guy that you're pulling out. When was the last time that has happened that you have ever seen?
Well, I mean, look, the old school rule, right? Like the Mike McGee, Eddie Galvin.
Yes.
Right? Somehow it revolves around this franchise, right? But the other part of it, with it being pressed at the field before the game, Yeah, no, that's unique. There's no doubt about that.
And and of course it doesn't quite help because Red Bulls lose in PKs to FC Cincinnati.
The magic of that's one of the magic stories of the cup, right? Like,
no question.
Yeah,
absolutely. It is a reverse Eddie Gavin. and then you have El Trafico late last night, and LAFC and our Australian viewer / listener was reminding us, show me how LAFC doesn't care about the Open Cup without telling me that LAFC doesn't care about the Open Cup. And we ran through the roster. Ran through the starting 11 and the 18 and the subs and everything.
There were three. Who was doing color? It sounded like that was Bradley Carnell.
It might. I'd find out who that was.
Maybe our Australian listener.
Damn, who was it?
Yeah,
but the thing is, you looked at the starting 11 for LAFC last night, and 3 of the dudes didn't have headshots on MLSsoccer.com.
Right.
Literally, it was just like a blank space with a shadowed head. And so LA Galaxy did what Monterey Bay could not, and relieved LAFC of one of the competitions that they're involved in. So is there
going to win the quadruple this year?
Is there even a note of thanks going from John Thorrington down to Carson, California? It's like, bruh, thanks for helping us out there, even as Giorgio Chiellini passes by Ricky Puig and called him a clown on the way out the door.
Yeah, that was also funny. Another Trafico moment that you could put in there. Yeah, and also LAFC. Like a lot of times in these games, like you'll start the teenagers and the second team and all that, but then you've got your heavy hitters on the bench, right? So if you need an emergency break glass,
yes,
you could bring in Vela and all these other kind of guys. But that wasn't even the case last night, right? They were like, dude, just go to dinner. We're fine. No worries. We'll see you training in the morning.
Yep, y'all be cool.
So last night, I was on the MLS desk and I was on for this match, and I was like, so what's the is there a sidebar here? Because the sidebar could be like, hey, LA Galaxy kind of, could this be the kickstart for their season moment? But then again, you're doing it against a second/third team for LAFC, right? Like, is there a lot? Like, is there a big celebration here because you've, right? Like, no, right? I mean, what's the biggest moment for the match? It was Ricky Puig doing an amazing slalomy run through the defense and scoring an incredible golazo, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, other than that, what's to celebrate for Galaxy except moving on, in the competition, and obviously, for will it be all MLS teams? We'll find out tonight, but it'll be an opportunity to get that much closer to the Champions League, right? Which is ultimately what you want to strive for. So, Jared
Smith for Dylan BUutler.
Well, first of all, our Australian listener, Bam, believes that it was done to keep Klein in a job temporarily. This is taking a loss to win. This is losing a battle to win the war, kind of thing.
We're helping our buddy.
Sure.
Yeah. This is you lost that battle, but it was more of a strategic retreat to make sure that you can win the war correctly. Obviously, studying Hannibal. Good work, Bam. Good work, LAFC. As far as the other, what we have to look forward to here, I mean, what do you rate this, the chances that we get a non-MLS team get through this round? I know it's the one I'm going to be watching personally is going to be Charlotte and Birmingham, because they might just start beating each other to death.
Yeah, I mean, you've got 2 opportunities, right? Pittsburgh and their incredible stadium against Columbus. I think they've got a good chance. The Riverhounds do. Yeah, and then Birmingham and Charlotte. I think I'm a little bit sad that at this point, we don't have that sort of, that because last year we had those incredible stories, right? Omaha and we don't have that kind of this year, which is, I guess, unfortunate. For this competition, but yeah, I mean, look, two more lower division teams tonight, both home. So we'll see what that means, in their games. But we also get another Rocky Mountain Cup showdown, right? So that should be fun too.
Juice boxes currently have Pittsburgh at a plus 215. Crew are your favorite at a plus 116 over 90 minutes. Charlotte is on the minus side heading to Birmingham. Birmingham's a plus 245. Austin FC, Jared is a minus 110 at home against Chicago. And Rocky Mountain, Colorado, and the Prairie Dogs are a plus 102. RSL is a plus 233.
See, okay, this feels kind of like Birmingham doing what Sporting Kansas City did last year. Because Birmingham is like in the last month or so,
a lower division team doing well. Is that what you're saying?
Well, but they've struggled in league for the past month. But their best game they've played in the past month, they took Memphis apart piece by piece in the Open Cup.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, they've been kind of it's been kind of rocky for them. Maybe they're going to do that thing where they're like, we're just not going to win league games. We're going to show up in Open Cup and just ball out. I hope they do. Also, I don't know if you've seen this, and I try and make sure everyone's aware that Pittsburgh uses a Yinzer hashtag.
Okay. Yes.
It's Hound Time. however you would pronounce that. But the Riverhounds have gone full Yinzer, and I think that might be one of the reasons things are working well for them.
Well, I mean, you sit there. It's Hound Town. Okay, got it. HOUNDTAHN. Okay, Hound Town. Got it. All right. It took me a second to figure out how to pronounce it properly as I'm staring at the hashtag.
I'm sure I'm mispronouncing it, man.
No, Hound Town.
I'm not from Pittsburgh.
Yeah, TAHN. You know, it's Hound Town to the rest of us, but when you're in Pittsburgh, yeah, we're in Hound Town, and TAHN is how you end up spelling it.
Huh.
So I mean, like I said, that's their hashtag. Bam also says Klein deserves a lifetime contract for all the work he's done the past 2 years in Los Angeles with LAG. When you look back at
the sarcasm in.
Yes, the hashtag sarcasm font that has been prevalent a great deal this morning because we talked a lot about Vinicius Jr. and La Liga and Valencia and what to do in those kinds of situations. Before we get into the week that was and the week that will be in Major League Soccer, if you were the grand exalted poobah of enforcement in a situation like that, what would you do? You got a league president that's basically sitting there and wagging his finger at the player, saying you didn't show up for 2 meetings. You need to be more informed before you get manipulated. Carlo Ancelotti basically spent the first 3.5 minutes of his press conference. Reporter says, yeah, coach, about the game today. We're going to talk about the game. 3.5 minutes in, Ancelotti just goes on a rant. If you were grand exalted enforcer of enforcement in situations like that, what would you do? Points deduction, fine, stand is empty, which is what's going to happen at Valencia for the next 5. What would you do in a situation like that?
I mean, what's the strictest penalty they can give these teams, right? Like, I mean, ultimately, I think teams will only, maybe like even a transfer ban, right? Like, I mean, we're almost like the Galaxy, like in this window, you can't sign internationals, maybe in the next window, you can't sign internationals or something. I mean, whatever it is that hits them the hardest, that opens their eyes is what should be done. Right. Like, I heard a caller yesterday on Sirius XM, talking to Tony Meola, and he was saying, why should these players even go right to these countries or these teams where you're dealing with this, right? Like, if I'm these players, I'm like, I don't want to go to Italy, right? I don't want to go in these situations. And I mean, agents are all about the bucks, unfortunately, but I think if there were some brave agents out there, maybe they could even express that as well. So it's a tough question. I don't know, there is no easy answer. But to me, it's teams will not enforce these things unless it's seriously hurting their bottom line.
Right.
is it the empty stands? Probably not, because you've sold season tickets. So that probably doesn't hurt you too much. Points deduction certainly hurts. But so too does your ability then to sign players in a window, right? Maybe both.
Something like that. I mean, we've been going about it all morning. Is it financial? Is it empty stands? And some folks are saying, well, okay, if we have just the one stand empty, that's one thing. If you have an empty stadium, that's something else. If you give a points deduction, which puts them in a relegation fight right now, but it's got to be substantial enough for it to be something like that, where if they were to get relegated, then that really would hurt them financially. We had a lot of stuff coming across the board, and I just wanted to see what you were thinking in a situation like that.
By the way, how about shifting gears here? How about my Newcastle, huh?
Yeah, that's true. You're Newcastle. Morning, Alex. Speaking of Newcastle folks, I hope that our Alex Pacine is doing well. Alex is probably still celebrating your top 4 finish, and now it looks like that the levels of investment for your Newcastle, it might hit a new gear next season with the next window, considering what's happening there as well. But the thing is that you've had a lot of key pieces that have been brought in. You haven't broken the bank in bringing in like one dude.
Right, which is good. I think what they're doing is smart. I think we just need some depth now, right? Like we need, especially if you're going to play multiple competitions. It's not a deep team right now, so get depth all around the park if you can. But just it's amazing what new ownership will do.
Mm-hmm.
At the start of the year, I didn't even dare to dream Champions League. It's been 20 years since this has happened, so that's it's certainly sweet. I'll be seeing my Magpies. Yeah, I'm not going down to Atlanta, but I'll see them in Philly, and I'll see them at Red Bull Arena.
Yeah, see, you should have dropped by. You should have let us know that you're coming down here. Then we could have done stuff.
Good point.
Yeah, Will says St. James on a Wednesday night will be very special, and that is absolutely correct. The week that was in Major League Soccer, what stuck out to you?
Let me think here for a second, because obviously I'm just in current Open Cup mode. Going back to the weekend, I kind of ironically, because they just lost obviously last night, but even though it wasn't really them that lost, but like LAFC, I think, again, just their ability to it doesn't seem to matter who they have on the field, right? Like they'll just go out and get results. I think that was one of them, that Vela comes off. Like you could bring a Vela and a Bawanga off the bench and get a win. Super impressive. Cincinnati, certainly, right? They've been a great story throughout, and they just laid the hammer down, right? Like they've had so many of these 1-goal wins where they probably could have extended it out, but this is one where they took care of business in a big way. Philly as well, Philly back in the mix, it seems like, in the East, putting a hurting on New England for sure. And now New England kind of regressing to the mean, like the injuries. Does the Dylan Barrero injury really look even worse than it was initially, right? Because they have not yet responded from that. Just a drunk Atlanta-Chicago match. Just craziness there. Vancouver, right? Like kind of super quietly having a really good year. And I think, and maybe it's because of where they are in British Columbia. They're like the third kind of team in that Cascadia, right? Like everyone talks Seattle and Portland, and they're like, oh yeah, Vancouver. They're like that third team. They're almost like that, like the little brother following the other two up the block. Hey, wait for me, guys! Wait, But a big win for them. And I feel like it was this time last year that we were saying, do we worry about Seattle? And we were like, no, we can't worry about Seattle, man. They've got this guy and that guy and this guy, and they always make the playoffs. And I don't know. Do we start worrying about Seattle again? And they make these moves to add depth. And again, Rui Diaz is hurt. But Roldan and like it's their key. Again, I've said it to start. I think when they get their best 11 out there, it is as good, if not better, than anybody in this league. But they're like 12 to 15 aren't. I feel like an LAFC jumps ahead of them.
Yeah.
Even a Philly, I think, because they're young players that they've been able to bring up, I think have a little bit more depth as well. They're not showing that. So, and then again, despite the Open Cup loss, I think Red Bull as well seems like, we've said it before, their underlying their numbers were very good. The results weren't. Is it a new coach bump, or are they just sort of playing up to the way that they should have been playing? So they get a pretty good result. And then Hell is Real was pretty fun too, right?
Yeah, it was average. Yeah. Average. Hell is Real. 74 goals are scored. Chaos is there. Will has a question, and it is an MLS Next Pro question. He's challenging our MLS Next Pro knowledge. Since you're a Red Bull guy, what are your thoughts on Red Bulls 2? Saw him play Huntsville early on, didn't have a full first-team Red Bull press. That was a month and a half ago. Have Red Bull gotten better at it as the season has gone on? Have you had the chance to see Red Bulls 2 at all this year?
Yeah, no, to be fair, I haven't. I know that there's been some struggles on that second team the last couple of years, right? There's been some coaching changes there as well. And I feel like it's sort of trickled down a little bit from the first team, where, and I think maybe a larger picture here is, a lot of their better players would come up through the academy and join the second team, and then, maybe make the first team. But I think since NYCFC came into the market, they're kind of sharing a lot of those players now, right? So, whereas before they would get it, there was no doubt they were getting it, like a Tyler Adams or an Alex Muil. Those guys now are maybe opting to stay with NYCFC. So I think that's bigger picture wise has affected their second team. And it's been a bit of a struggle there. So to be fair, no, I've not seen them. It's hard. I really couldn't, honestly speak tactics about what they've been doing, but yeah.
We can kind of sit there and say, yeah, you're going to try and do the same things to get you ready for first team play. They played their last 3 at home, 1-0 win over Inter Miami, 2-0 win over NYCFC 2, losing to Philadelphia Union 2 by the score of 2-1. Goalless draw, got the extra point in a shootout in Bridgeview against the Fire, beat the Revs at Gillette, won at Montclair, beating Hunt City, and that's where Will is based, and he's concerned about the return fixture coming up in 2 days' time at Joe Davis. Biggest thing that I can tell you, Will, and Jarrett, you can talk to this too, is when it comes to Red Bulls 2, we've seen them already this year up at the Fraction, and we know what to expect. And like I said, Will is trying to scout Red Bulls 2 for the Hunt City match in a couple of days. When you see Red Bulls 2, you kind of know what you're going to get. It's just navigating that press and not forcing yourself into silly decisions and create short fields because they think the ball has cooties when, they try to do things offensively.
Yeah, it's actually interesting because I think they still have some of that. It's funny though, because I think Philly, for playing a really similar, that high pressing, high physicality style, Philly's a little more comfortable in the metaphorical half court, if we want to call it that, like
Sure.
where they're trailing.
Yep.
And it's funny because I feel like last year when we saw the Baby Bulls in the last year of USL, I thought they were better at it than when we saw earlier this season. And look, goals change games and circumstances change based on games, but I haven't watched much of them other than when we saw them against Atlanta United too at home, in the sense that there are moments where they can put stuff together in the and again the metaphorical half court more so than you're used to seeing from maybe the senior squad.
So yeah, we'll keep an eye on that coming forward. Dylan, I know you've got only a couple minutes here with us. The weekend that will be, you've got NYC and Philly. You've got the Purple team hosting Atlanta. You've got some Copa Tejas. We talk about Vancouver. Vancouver's on the road to St. Louis City SC. What does FC Cincinnati do for an encore after Hell is Real, going to Colorado? LAG. Charlotte gets to go to Birmingham and Open Cup tonight, and then they get to fly out to Los Angeles to take on LAG. Thanks, schedule.
Very much the same, right? Situation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, schedule maker. We're just going to fly to Birmingham on our way out to LA. That's what
it's LAG. They're going to be okay. They're going to be okay.
LAG right now is the favorite at a -137. San Jose and Dallas, Seattle and Red Bulls. What sticks in your mind? And then you got Sporting, Portland, Nashville, and Columbus. What are you staring at this weekend?
Yeah, I think the first two that you mentioned are the ones because Philly, NYCFC, that's been spicy these last couple of years, right? I mean, listen, whenever you get it's a kit man, right? For Philly, whenever you get him red carded for starting a fracas.
Oh, the physio. It was the phys. Was it?
Yeah. So Tati's not there, but he's still there. So there's always a possibility of some fireworks there. So those are always fun. And yeah, the Atlanta, Orlando, right? Those are always fun as well. So I think for me, those are probably the top two that I'm looking forward to seeing. It feels like now more. Maybe it's just the way the schedule has fallen, but I feel like more than Cascadia, we've had a Copa Tejas match for 8 straight weeks.
Yeah, really.
Like we have one in the we could potentially have one right in the Open Cup again as well with Houston. And by the way, Corey Baird doing his best Dwayne De Rosario old school Houston, right, with a hat trick last night.
Yep.
That was impressive, and he scored in it was really different ways as well.
PK and then 2 others,
yeah. Chips the keeper. Also got an assist, so I know fantasy points don't carry over. So although that would be really fun if you could have an Open Cup.
Oh, Open Cup fantasy, amazing.
Yeah, that'd be sick. But yeah, 3-1 for him on the night. That's those are some big numbers for him.
All right, so what's going on with Varsity Media, OSDB, and MLSsoccer.com?
Yeah, so I have an interesting one here today, guys. I have a Suffolk County Class A boys lacrosse semifinal, and it's here in my home district.
Ooh, okay.
With Connecticut taking on Smithtown East, and my godson / cousin is on Connecticut. So
you're not going to be hurting for bio info and stories on one player.
For sure. No. I should actually bring the photo of him that I have here from his baptism where
fantastic television.
So it's funny every time that I did one of his games earlier this year and I did like a showcase event last summer. And both times I had to put out a disclaimer at the start of the game. Listen, here's our relationship. Okay, let's play. So,
okay.
Maybe I'm done with the disclaimers. I don't know, but he leads Suffolk County in points, with 96 points through 17 games. So, that should be a lot of fun. It's always weird. That's for sure. Cause I always like to let the color guy, wax poetic on him. I'm just a play-by-play guy. I'm telling you what happened. You tell me how good he is.
Varsity Media on YouTube, OSDB Sports, Dylan BUutler, Dylan_Butler at MLSsoccer.com. Dylan, have a great call. Enjoy the district. Enjoy your godson. We want highlights, and we'll catch up with you because you are blessed next week. All right, my friend?
Thanks, boys.